Well, Dave, what attracted you to ADE this year?
I live in Amsterdam, so that helps. But it's the best dance event, music event that I could wish to be part of, and the fact that I'm now living in the same city is a very happy coincidence. If I wasn't living here, I'd want to come here. It's a very cohesive event. It brings a lot of people together, and like I've said, I love music, but I don't necessarily like the industry. But at this event, I actually really like being part of the industry as well.
Is there anything new that in the last couple of days that you heard?
I enjoyed being part of the panels. In fact, I think, misplaced into a advertising panel yesterday. But the fact I was sort of misplaced there, it opened my eyes up to a different world. And that was interesting for me. And do DJs need managers? I tried to go in there with as open mind as possible, even though I've already made my own mind myself through my own career. It's just a place where you can just learn things and find things from different angles, and it's a good place for that.
But are there other people, in your opinion, that are leading the dance industry right now or being very influential?
That's a tricky one. I wouldn't actually say that I'm influential myself. Because I just do what I do, and I don't do it to be influential. And sometimes I get the feeling that some people do what they do to be influential, which is not necessarily the same thing. So, which I suppose leads me on to the next thing, which is like, am I actually influenced by anyone else? Which actually is no. So therefore, do I know if anyone else is influencing things? Well, I'm not affected by it, so I don't see it. If I'm influenced by anything, I'm influenced by spirit and soul. And spirit and soul is hard to attribute just to a few people. But I'm just influenced by people that do it for the love.
The internet changed a lot of things for artists. How do you see the dance or electronic industry in 2020?
That's really a long way away. Well, I mean,
maybe 10 years, 5 years.
Even 10 years is difficult to predict. I mean, Gordon Moore's law of chip dynamics has been surpassed a long time ago. So you could always say that computer power double every 18 months. And now it seems that for the majority of people that don't actually use computer power for creativity, it's now heading towards the cloud. So in fact, Gordon Moore's law is more going to be Larry Ellison law from Oracle, where he recommended, he said that everything was going to be a node, and in a way it's probably going to be a node. So in a way, Minitel from Paris was kind of right 20 years ago that it was all going to be noded. It's really hard to predict. I wouldn't say necessarily the internet has changed everything. I would just say that computer power and binary 1 and 0s have changed everything, because it used to be very analog, and then it became more and more digital with the sampler, and then the DAT machine, then the CD machine, and then the conveyance of the music via different carriers has completely changed as well. So the internet is a carrier of music. It enables artists to get in contact direct without managerial interference. I don't think the CDJ is going to be that important in 5 years' time. I think the CDJ and the CD will be non-existent in 5 years, to be honest, except for a few people like who are still playing vinyl now will be playing CDs then. It's going to be a very exciting time, because everything is massively changing. For the creative people, it's not going to be about noded, clouded network. It's going to be about raw computer power and what it can do for you. And there's going to be touchscreen development. It's going to be, you might even see someone pretending to be Marseille doing miming, but in a Minority Report kind of vibe, because basically it's touching things. Yeah. And it's going to be very heavily based with technology, and those that do not keep up will be in their own niche, but it's going to be a niche that's going to be very starved eventually, and it's going to be an exciting time though.
That was supposed to be my next question, because technology is everything these days. Do you really educate yourself? You get into the new things and programs, or?
I don't want to have Emperor's New Clothes just for the sake of it. I've always had a thing in the studio that the equipment, whether that's software or hardware, has to earn its keep. It has to be something that's valuable in that it can add something, as opposed to that it looks really pretty on the screen.
Is there anything else for yourself that you're trying to achieve in your career in the dance music, or is there, you just do what you do?
I do what I do. what I really want to do is expand my radio show, because I think it's vitally important to get the talent out there that never gets a chance to get there on radio. It's something that I'm sort of carrying on from who I was inspired from as a young boy listening to radio, although I'm much more focused on one specific or two specific genres. Mm-hmm. But I really would like to concentrate a lot more on that, because I get such a buzz out of doing radio.
Okay. Cool. And who are the people that you were influenced by before you got into the business? Or
a lot of hip-hop guys, because I came from nothing. I didn't really have any money. I had an education, which is strange, because I had no money but an education. And I left home very, very early, and I was very, very inspired by the hip-hop scene in those days, because it wasn't about bling. It wasn't about almost Margaret Thatcher values, because that's what it seems to be about now, is Margaret Thatcher values, like, I've got this and you haven't, ha, ha, ha. I was inspired by the politicisation of it by people like KRS-One, and the whole do-it-yourself vibe, you know, like Cool DJ Herc, Marley Marl, Chuck Chillout, all those people, what they did. And of course massively inspired by John Peel, and massively inspired by just artists that did what they did because they believed in it. And that's, I think, when I grew up in England, it was possibly the best time to grow up in England for music. I don't really rate the Beatles. I really rate George Martin. I think he's a genius, but the Beatles, it's okay for me. I don't think I'd have really enjoyed growing up in the 60s. I think I'd have been really pissed off about hearing I Want to Hold Your Hand forever and ever. But growing up in the 70s and the 80s are always maligned. I don't know why. I think some of the best music has ever come out in the 80s. And the late 70s were fantastic. I had a talk with one of the artists at my party last night, the Hacker, and the late 70s and the 80s were a fantastic time to musically grow up. And then add to that, not only a fantastic time to grow up, because he was in the south of France and he was struggling to hear the music. I was in England, where a lot of this music was coming, because England at that time was a bridgehead between America and Europe, so all the American imports would come in. You know, I came to Holland and DJed in Holland in like '89, and they were only just starting to get sort of into house then, and we'd already done it for like 4 or 5 years. So growing up in England was an amazing, amazing time then, and I think now it's not. And I'm actually really happy that I left it behind. Okay.
So what does Holland do for you?
Makes me more relaxed. Inspires me every day. I mean, just, you got to pan the camera out here. You got to turn the camera, because it's absolutely, it's just out here. There's just fantastic buildings, and the beautiful thing about living in the Gracht is everyone has their windows open, and you can just see inside their lives, not in a sort of Big Brother kind of way. You can just see inside their lives, and it's just an inspiring place. There's great food here. There's Italian delicatessens. There's Indonesian food here. And I hated Indonesian food in England. I really hated it. You haven't got any good curry houses here. You haven't got any good Chinese restaurants here. But you've got great Japanese food here. There's just so much that's inspirational in Amsterdam that, for me, it is the most beautiful, beautiful city in the world. And I've travelled everywhere. I might not have stayed everywhere, but I've travelled everywhere. And when I come back here and I touch down in Schiphol on its 6 runways, I think, this is just the best place to be. I'm just so happy here. It's fantastic. That's
nice to hear. So it really helps you creatively speaking.
Yeah, well, the other thing, I had my work-life balance completely wrong when I was in England. It was work, 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 all the time. And here, I actually have a bit of a social life, which I actually cherish. And I have a really nice local pub where I just have a drink or two, play pool. And it's so fucking fantastic here. And the Amsterdam dance event where I live,
can be better.
In England we have a saying, it's like a pig in shit. It's brilliant.